All right. Okay. So this is recording 753. It's called Listen Next 753. It's on my Speaking to the CIA podcast. You can find my podcast on my website, ChristinaStatia918.com. That is ChristinaStatia 918.com. Or you can find me on Podbean. Okay, so all right. So more connections and there more connections and more crimes I want to report, decoding even more. Okay, so when I was talking about in the previous recording about the snake pits and I was talking about the top of the stove and the 4 burners in the oven and then how that links and that's connected to my previous decoding before I got here of the snake pits that are 6 states wide. That recording is probably like, this is recording, what did I say, 753 or 754, I can't even remember now. So you got to go back probably about like 3 or 4 recordings, maybe 5 recordings, and then it's there. So anyway, another thing that she did, again, I'm telling you, these snake pits are real. Another thing that she did is World War Z. Remember how I connected in World War Z when I was decoding, and it's linked to World War Z. Remember me talking about that in the previous podcast? Well, who starred in World War Z? Brad Pitt. That would go to Snake Pit. So that connects to that. Okay, so now moving forward, I want to move to the word scent. Okay, so scent, okay, so scent as in SCENT. Okay, like smell, like scent. Okay, so well, I could go on forever here. Okay, so remember I talked to you about 6th grade in Mrs. Dahl's class, and my teacher, yes, her name was Mrs. Dahl. I was at Pomeroy Elementary in Chandler, Arizona. Remember I told you we had to do this thing that stood out to me, and it was on the 5 senses, and then I went through like all the decode of it. Okay, so going back to that, okay, so scent obviously connects to Nostradamus. See, I'll decode on Nostradamus. I decode the heck out of Nostradamus, as you know. I've decoded so much Nostradamus. It's insane. And then when I put on my podcast, how to go about decoding Nostradamus and how to follow the path and how to follow the trail, people like were listening to my podcast and like everybody like everywhere like took off and was like, oh my God. And it's been quiet since. So I know people have been like decoding fools out there, decoding Nostradamus. So anyway, Nostradamus, he's got nostril in his name. Okay. So Nostradamus, I don't know if I have my books with me. I posted 2 of my books online. They're on YouTube. When I turned Gene Roberts in, I turned in like 30 books filled with decoded ciphers. And I still have ciphers here. I still have tons of books here filled with decoded ciphers. And I don't know if it's at the Tulsa Police Headquarters. I don't know if I uploaded it and it's online. I don't know if I still have it here with me. I mean, I've just got so much decode. So anyway, one particular part of that was on my, I have that with me because that was on my phone. So I have that with me still, unless I put it to paper. Because I remember when I lived in Oklahoma City is when I decoded it. and I was putting stuff that I decoded on my phone on paper too. Like there are some things I put on paper, so it seems like I remember putting it on paper, but I know I decoded on my phone. So one big part of decoding Nostradamus was not his quatrains, but the name Nostradamus. I decoded the heck out of that, and it's a big long bit of decode, and it's all really historical. That was around the same time that I decoded Jack the Ripper, what he wrote on the wall. I decoded parts of that, and then just recently I decoded more parts of it, but there's so much in there, and I'm not a historian. All I know is what I can see and what I can pull from it, from what I can see and the ciphers that I know to do the transitions or the letter exchanges. So I can't like see everything. It would need to be like, because everything wraps around my life, it would need to be like, because you could have like the expert of Jack the Ripper sitting next to me, and he's going to miss a trail if he doesn't have the trail of my life, because Gene intertwined my entire life in everything. Okay. So it's like, it would take like me and a Jack the Ripper expert. So like, I'd be like, I can see this, and this. And then they're like, that's literally what it would be in that direction. And then I'd be like, give me this back. Here's more. And then they'd be like, it would be crazy. But I decoded a couple of different segments of it. So anyway, and I also decoded, oh my gosh, I decoded his name, Nebuchadnezzar, and that's a big long bit of decode. So anyway, and you've got my previous podcast on Nebuchadnezzar. So anyway, so scent obviously goes to Nostradamus, but I wanted to point out a couple of different things. I'm going to list the obvious that everybody already knows first. Seen. Seen equals Y, the letter Y. SCENE equals the letter Y. You can use that whole word as an exchange for the letter Y. So if you're decoding a cipher and you see a Y in there, you can replace it with the word seen, and then you can continue on decoding, and all kinds of stuff will come out. It's one of Gene Roberts' favorite words. Setting the scene, painting the scene, even the Y, if you flip a Y upside down, even the Y looks like a paintbrush. So anyway, so that's obvious that everybody already knows, okay? Just like the letter A equals the word and, A-N-D. So you can use those exchanges. And then if you do AY, it would be and seen. So we think of that as like a Hollywood thing to say, and seen and cut. If you say and seen, it's dancing. It means death. So and seen just means end, but it means death, because it's using the word dance for death. So anyway, which goes to naming the days of the week. We have Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So everything ends in AY. So you know that's very, 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 very old. And I decoded a lot on time. I could probably write, I've decoded so much on time, if I put it all together, I could probably write, I don't know, probably, I would say probably about 50 solid, maybe 50 to 75 solid pages on time. I decoded so much time, it's insane. Like I go crazy with it. So it's important. It's in everything. So anyway, so it's like the days of the week. So it's showing you the day the day begins and then the day ends. So like the word of the day, nice freaking try, Gene. You're just a nasty person, but you're being turned in currently. So anyway, she was controlling my speech. So anyway, so if you say like Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, it's like the day of the week is showing you the span of the day itself, just like the word day, like the end of the day. So it's like that's the AY at the end. So anyway, so what I wanted to point out was cent is a penny is also in cent, CENT. And then also the obvious SENT. So that's going to go to all of her wanting to, and then also SC, Scorpio child, her wanting to, planning to sacrifice me before I'm even born. Okay. And her weird, like, beliefs, like, you should see some of the Manson decode. I decode. It's freaking insane. There's so much like creepy weirdo stuff. But anyway, so she uses the word scent, and then she's also using scent as in male, which would go to the ricin and the anthrax attacks, and probably the word sense, and then sense, you know, her obsession with ESP or making people believe, like she tried to make Charles Manson believe that he was a prophet. She did the same thing to Koresh. She started the Waco occult with David Koresh. She started it with them, with two of her Charles Manson sisters. And I've told her, and I've told you guys this in my podcast several times before, when I lived in Oklahoma City, I was like, I cannot believe this. You started that occult. She was acting like she was gone, I guess. I mean, I don't know what she was doing, acting like she was gone and she was there. Like, what was she freaking doing? But anyway, she started that Waco occult. She was in the Waco occult. Like, she purposely started it and formed it with them. Okay. So, and I decoded all kinds of stuff on Waco, and you can tell she did the Waco. She started the Waco occult, and you can tell all of it was her doing, because, I mean, just the word Waco, Texas, wacko, like mad crazy. It goes to her AIW plot, her mad theme. So, anyway, I was like, living in Oklahoma City, and she was on in my brain with her Charles Manson occult, and she'd be like taunting me like she does now, like saying like ridiculous lies and being real snotty and just being her stupid ass self. And I'm like, and in my brain, I'm like, Gene, you think you're getting away? You did the World Trade Center attack and you did the Oklahoma City bombing. You think you're going to walk out of getting away with committing these terror attacks, just like you walked out of Waco and got the hell away with that, and no one even knows you were in it or that you started it. And I would tell her over and over in my brain, Gene, you're not walking out of Waco on this one. I mean, just about every day I said that in my brain to her. You are not walking out of Waco on this one. You are not. Now, the Waco occult is also known as the Branch Davidian occult. So anyway, I'm like, you're not getting away with this. I will continue to turn you in until you are arrested. So anyway, so where was I at with the Waco call? I'm going over. I'm sorry, I'm losing my brain. She's misfiring my brain because she doesn't want me to be making podcasts, turning her in. Well, tough. So you shouldn't have committed crimes, Gene. I press charges against you. I'll keep making podcasts against you until you're arrested. So anyway, okay, so Scent is in that, which would go to World Trade Center. And then I already said the anthrax in the ricin attack. She committed the anthrax and ricin attacks too. Okay, and I know that you guys know that. I went over that with you in previous podcasts. In fact, I've shown you how to further decode out from my decode where she did. That was her handwriting. I'm not an expert in handwriting analysis, but I damn sure know that she did that, and that was her handwriting. And I was even told that was her handwriting. And I got out Death to Pigs again after I decoded Death to Pigs, the phrase Death to Pigs that she sprayed on the wall when she did the Charles Manson murders. And I compared Death to Pigs to Death to America. And what did it say? Death to America. It said, it was in the anthrax ricin attack. It said Death to America, something Allah, something. I don't remember all what it said. The first line said Death to America. And I've talked to you guys about this before. If you take the first mind-blowing thing was seeing Death to Pigs from the 60s, Herner Manson occult, and then this note that is sent with the anthrax or the ricin, and the note says Death to America. It says Allah is great and something. It's like 4 lines. So, and then seeing Death to America. And I'm like, oh my God. She literally freaking committed this crime. And I already know she did the World Trade Center attack. But I'm like sitting here like mind blown, like, oh my God. Like, I just keep decoding and decoding. I even went on YouTube and I was studying some of the letters that were sent in and watching the letters on YouTube, because some of that's on YouTube, and I put it on pause, and I'm like, in my brain, I'm reading the letter, and I'm like, she did that, 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 she did that. I decoded that letter. There was that letter that they had on there. It was like an email letter, and I was like, she did that, she did that, she did that. That is her pattern. That is her. She freaking did that. And I'm like pointing at my like phone screen. Jean freaking did that. That is her style. That is her pattern. I'm like literally decoding the letter. So anyway, so I looked at the Death to America note compared to Death to Pigs. It was spray painted on the wall. And I compared the handwriting. You're talking 2001 to 1969. So there's time span difference in the handwriting, obviously. But that's the same handwriting. That is her handwriting. I guarantee you that is her handwriting. Because, number one, I was told that that was exactly her handwriting. And number two, I'm not a handwriting expert analysis on anything. And I'm studying it, and I can see it is the same freaking handwriting. And you can tell in the Death to America, the letters spaced out. You can tell, like I told you, that's a cipher. She's letting you know that that's a cipher because she's got it all in caps and she's got it spaced out. And then also, she's probably doing something with the spaces. I bet everybody has gone over that, like count the spaces and then all the synonyms and homonyms and letter exchanges, and give me the inventor of Kryptos who made this. give me everybody. I bet they figured out a whole bunch in that. So anyway, so Scent, SCNT, also goes to the World Trade Center, Scent, Penny. Another thing is, okay, remember I told you, I know the Zodiac, Charles Manson, for those of you guys who don't know, Charles Manson, the Charles Manson occult, they had a couple of different, they all had individual aliases. Jean has a ton of them. And I've got them saved on my laptop because every time I would solve crime that she committed and I would find her aliases in it, I made a list. Every time I come across one of her aliases, I'd put it down. There's another one of Jean's aliases. Jean has a ton of aliases, probably like between 20 and 25 aliases. The other people that are in the occult with her, they had several aliases, and I went and studying their aliases too. And some of their aliases were leaking out to future plagues on the planet from what I can remember in my brain right now, like studying their aliases. Like, even with them being bald, that's future signs of bioterrorism. And so everybody's supposed to go back in time and look back and see that Charles Manson occult was bald and trip out like they're freaking you back by making you look back at old pictures. So, and I don't know if all the people in her occult is probably the same way in Illuminati. I bet you everybody in her cult didn't know everything, but these people knew this and these people knew that. It's very, her occult from the people, because I told you her Charles Manson occult is on in my brain. So some of the people she has trapped that are in her occult are in Weatherford underground. And some of them, Weatherford, Oklahoma. And I got to talk to them, and well, I mean, they were connected to me. She basically had them on as which she does to me like all the time, but she had them on as like guard dogs. Okay. So she's literally like she's literally like holding my brain and body hostage, and she wants to kick off her new freaking shtick where she runs around and pretends she's a cop, and she's got every right in the world to get away with purchasing me with real cash, but my brain and body, to use AI on me all my life and, stalk my family. Like, she literally thinks she owns me. And then she's just gonna act like she's like my owner or my cop or something. You don't own me. You don't cop me. You don't do shit to me. Like, you're a fucking lunatic. So she's got a lot of people like this. And a lot of her people in her occult have a lot of people like that. Like, they really think they own people. Like the Ku Klux Klan. Gina's also Ku Klux Klan. She literally thinks that she owns people. Now, some of these people some of this is heartbreaking. Like, it made me cry. Like, I can't believe this. Like, some of it, literally made me cry. Jean is evil. Like, just wretched freaking evil. But some people in her occult, they do what she does. They all do the same thing. But some people in her occult, they're people that they think they own. They ice them their whole life, and they watch over them, and they get emotionally attached to them like it's their family. I had one girl, it was when I was first living here in Oxford. It was breaking my heart. I could hear her in my brain, and she was yelling, and there was a lot of Charles Manson occults on in my brain. I don't hear a lot of them anymore, probably because they're muted, or they moved them away because I've got such a strong podcast trying to get Jean turned in. But anyway, there was one girl on, and she was throwing a fit, not like Jean, not like Jean. Jean's a snot. She's spoiled. This girl's throwing a fit, heartbroken, mad, she did not understand. She didn't comprehend, she did not understand. And she was like, I want to be in Christina's family. And somebody was explaining to her, and they were real patient and real trying to connect to her. And they were like, they were like, you're not in Christina's family. You can listen to Christina because they have connection to me, mental telepathy, and they're like, you can listen to Christina, but you're not related to Christina. You're not in Christina's family. You're not related to her. And she's like, no, I want to be in her family. And they were like, you can't just say that you want to be, and this is real. I mean, this is a heartbreaking conversation. And they go, you can't just go say you want to be in someone's family. And she said, I want to be in Christina's family. Like, she was getting upset. She's like, I want to be in her family. And she was talking about all of my family she was talking about all of my family, like on all sides, like she was talking about my mom's side. She wasn't really talking about my dad's side. She was talking about my mom's side, and she was talking about Mario's side. She was talking about like Mario's side of the family and my boys and everything else. So she's talking about the Spanish side of my family, Mario's side, and then she's talking about my mom's side, and you can tell she's literally emotionally attached to us. Like, she's been connected to us for so long. She's emotionally attached. And she was like, I want to be in her family. I want to be in her family. That's all she would say. And they're like, you can't just say that. And they said, you can talk to Christina, and then, once this is over, maybe you can meet Christina one day. Maybe all of this will change, because what do you say? And so, and that would be cool, like, to meet her. Like, that would be, amazing to meet her and have her be, like, an adopted, like a part of the family. That would be so freaking cool. You know what I mean? But whoever was talking was like, you can't just say you can't do, like, he was trying to, like, patiently trying to explain. And she was so upset. Like, she was heartbroken. She got really, 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 really upset. But she just didn't understand. All she knew is what she wanted, and nobody was understanding her or listening to her. And it was it was a sad conversation. I was listening to it in my brain. And anyway, so the Charles Manson occult. So some people, they use AI on people all their lives, because Jean has stolen this technology. She's grown her occult huge. She's had this technology. She's had it stolen since the 60s. Okay. So some people in her occult have used AI on people and have gotten to know these families that they think they own. They literally think they own them, but they're emotionally attached to them. Like, it makes them cry and it makes them angry. They're fiercely protective. One time, it's probably in my podcast. One time I felt bad, but I was like communicating in my brain. I'm like, if you can hear me out there, you're just going to have to be tough, because the minute I am not tough and not strong, Jean will Camille herself and she'll act like she's you. And then she'll try to sucker someone into feeling sorry for her. And she'll act like all her little nasty people that are running around committing all those nasty crimes. She'll pretend that all of you are all of them. And she'll just mute you, and then she will impersonate you. So it's going to get tough, and it's going to get mean in my brain. It's going to get tough and mean, because I cannot allow Jean to get away with doing that. So I'm going to make podcasts, like I'm making reports. I'm going to make sure the CIA knows everything that's going on. But I'm telling you, it's going to get tough and mean. Do not get your feelings hurt at all. Like, and you can tell, and they took the words of wisdom. So there's witches occults. witches I told you that live underground. The witches, like she had them connected to me in Oklahoma City, literal witches. And anyway, and they live underground. And I told you some of them are really good people and some of them are insane. Some of them are Jean's people and will do anything she says to the end. And it may be for all different circumstances because they have no other choice or because they've just been raised around lunacy and that's what's going on. And then you have actual witches that are like, no, 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 no. Like she told them to like attack me. And so they were doing all this stuff with AI. And you got my previous podcast on it and where all the details are. And then they realized that Jean, she told them a bunch of lies and got them all fired and worked up. And they're real emotional people. Like they're real heartfelt, real emotional people. And you can imagine if you are raised in an occult and you are raised by an occult leader, what does that occult leader do? That occult leader pronounces himself as a god, and you are all beneath them, and you're feeling destitute, you're feeling controlled, you're feeling like a robot yourself, and you feel like there's no hope unless, you do what they tell you to do. And there's only certain ways out of it. And then to be able to talk to me in mental telepathy and to know that there might be hope or light at the end of the tunnel, that they're not going to be trapped with Jean Roberts and her Manson occult forever, is like, that's the biggest like heart, like it's the most expressive thing that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's freedom. That's freedom. And the distrust there, they probably have like, what if Christina like, goes crazy and forgets us? Or what if Jean kills her and silences her? Like they look for every shoe to drop. Even like Jean running around, like the first year I worked at Research in my brain, she was running around saying the United States isn't going to rescue you. They're just going to let you die. And I could hear her telling them that. I could hear her literally telling them that. And then she tried to say that different nations around the world, she was specifically naming Russia. I want to say different nations because I don't want to like pick on Russia, but I'm not picking on Russia because Russia didn't say that. But I don't want it to appear like I'm picking at Russia, but I'm not. Russia really didn't say that. Jean is speaking on behalf of Russia. But Jean came on and pretended to be Vladimir Putin. I got a connection to him in mental telepathy when I lived in Oklahoma City. And she came on and pretended to be him. And she told me, they're all diseased. They're all going to die. And then one day, when I walked into the living room, and I was in the other bedroom, and I walked into the living room, one of my roommates was watching a movie on TV, and there was a girl, and I know I'm being ice controlled for this scene on TV, and to see this, like somebody wants me to see this, and I had to go in the backyard. I bust out crying, but anyway, so I walked past in the living room. And there's a girl, and she's on the phone, and there's mental telepathy, dialogue or dialect conversation going on in my brain. Like what's really being said is not like on the TV, on the script, on the show, is not really being paid attention to. Like they have a way in my brain to mute out certain parts and then keep certain parts, and then they fill in certain parts in my brain, like with mental telepathy. So it's a whole different conversation going on. So anyway, she's on the phone and she's got boils. I don't know if it's boils or lumps. It's like gigantic lumps. And I think it was like a horror movie. She had gigantic lumps like all over her face. Her face was covered with lumps all over her face. And I can tell there's multiple people crying inside me right now because they saw this too. looking through my eyes. But anyway, her face was covered in lumps everywhere, like big, gigantic. And she was on the phone and she was asking for help. And then the person on the phone said they can't help her. And then she clenches the phone and she just drops the phone. And it was just after Gene Roberts had come on and said, they're all diseased, they're all going to die. And nobody's going to let them survive, and nobody's going to let them out. So they're scared to death down there. Now, so that scene, so they're showing me probably the feeling and the sadness of what's going on underground where people are trapped. Like, you've got like certain lifelines of people you're connected to in mental telepathy, and I'm like, I'm not going to break my word. You're just going to have to be very tough and very strong, no matter like what your situation is, no matter who you are. No, I'm not talking about Jean and her little secret group of sickos, which she's actually got them running around committing terrorism. But Jean likes to have a fantasy pretending that everybody's talking about them. She goes, they're all this, they're all that. No, Jean, that's you. I'm talking about regular society where it could be anybody from Native Americans that might be trapped underground, like witches colonies, POW. There's so many people underground. There's a lot of people that live underground, and you've got these occults underground. You got all kinds of stuff going on underground, and it's like a kingdom under there. And you got all these different factions and all kinds of different things going on, and it probably depends on where you are, but I bet the kingdom effect is the same everywhere. You follow the orders. Like when I was at work one day here recently at Energy Exchanger, I was at work and I was doing my job. I was sitting there at my desk doing my job, and people were talking in my brain. And then somebody pissed somebody off, and they were talking back and forth to each other. Somebody, I don't know what the heck happened. Somebody pissed somebody off, and somebody said, can you kill people down here? And the guy that has the strongest control of me, of my AI, he goes, yeah, just clean up your mess. And they're like, you can seriously I can just like kill anybody? And they're like, I don't care. Go kill them. Clean up your mess, though. That's what he freaking said. I'm sitting here working and this conversation's going on in my brain. I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, so they're in hideouts underground. And I mean, it's like you do like what you're told to do. And if you piss someone off, someone might kill you. And I've seen people underground in my brain. I've seen people being chased, young adult males. I've seen them, and they're so like, I just feel so bad because you can tell they're not like, I wouldn't say like quite like Down syndrome, but maybe like a little bit of Down syndrome, maybe. Like you can tell by looking at their face, like they're just not like, you can tell that there is, they don't have their full faculties. And so they're running and screaming, and I mean, they're running and screaming for their life, and they're like running down a corridor, and it's like literally like crazy. And I'm like I'm in my brain, like my eyes are closed, but it's like my eyes are open in reverse. Like I'm looking into my brain, like I'm looking at a screen, like my whole brain fills up with this imagery. And I'm like, oh my God. So he's like running and he's screaming, and there's literally somebody like chasing after him, trying to kill him. I I've seen them dress people up. Like I told you, I've seen them people dress people up in macabre outfits, and I've seen them deceased like that. Like I've seen all kinds of stuff in my brain, in mental telepathy and brain visuals. It is crazy under there. It's crazy. And it is like a kingdom. It's like a monarchy. And I was even trying to explain to them when I lived in Oklahoma City and I was connected to the guards, the Charles Manson guards, because that's what Gene Roberts had them hired to do. Gene is a snot, and all her snot bombs were up trying to like wheel and deal and lie to people and run their freaking con or whatever the heck they were doing. And they had all their Weatherford, their Manson people, like it's a tier. It's like a tier. Like the upper echelon of Charles Manson is all the hoity-toity, fancy, super freaking snot, just insane. Like you can't talk to them longer than 2 minutes. Like they're the only thing that matters in the entire planet. And then it goes down in like levels. So the people that I was on with were people that were not considered the elite, the snot of the Charles Manson occult at the top. They were just like, they're just to like do whatever she says or else. So anyway, I don't remember what I was getting ready to say about this, about Weatherford, about the Charles Manson. So some of them are like, they talk to you, and let you know like what's really going on. There's some people stuck in her occult that are really, really hurting. And whatever happens in that occult, the people at the bottom tier always get stepped on and get killed and get used and get abused and get bred. And the people at the top, Gene Roberts and her brother and her sister and all the people that all the famous snot that they've like raised up, the cream of their Manson crop at the top, they treat like everybody like in their own occult like garbage. But if you're nasty and you're filthy and you're foul, which is what Jean is, you're right up there with her. So you get special privilege and special like treatment because you get to go do dirty jobs for her. And this is literally like how it freaking is. And this is literally how she runs the streets from underground here in Tulsa. So there are people that like are like really struggle, really not even a part. Like there's even people that are not even in the Charles Manson occult, but they know who the occult people are, you know. So it's like I was told in Arizona where I decoded and found Casablanca. It's in a Bajo that is near I always say this wrong. Havasupai. I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's like it's west of the Grand Canyons. I think that's where Havasupai is. It's in that area, even though there's a Casablanca down south by Tucson. This Casablanca is way up north, and it made me cry. I was crying just looking at the map, looking at the distance from one Casablanca to the other, because I was talking to Native Americans, and all I can think about was Native Americans traveling by foot underground across the terrain of Arizona, and they settled in this Abajo location in the Havasupai area. And the name of the Abajo that they're in is Casablanca. And I was like bawling my freaking eyes out. Like, I'm like full of history, you know what I mean? Like from all the decode, like everything is very raw with me. That's why I never talk. I keep everything just like at the level. I don't ever talk because everything is so raw. Like I can't wait till Gina's arrested. But anyway, so like decoding American history and seeing the crimes that Jean Robertson or Manson Nicole have committed in history, and then seeing and knowing how she's taken advantage of the American Indian movement, and then knowing what the American Indian has gone through, knowing what African Americans have gone through. Like, I'm very, like, if you get to my heart, like, my heart, usually I'm like, I keep it at level, you know what I mean? Um, like, everything is very, very raw with me. Like, you can't decode for 10 years mass atrocities that Jean committed and come out the same person before you started. Like, Jean Roberts has to be arrested. She is a terrorist and a trafficker. This is insanity. So anyway, so my life is forever changed, and it's forever changed in a blessed way, because I want nothing more than to have a new life, to be in witness protection, for this to be over, for Jean Roberts to be arrested so her terrorism is stopped, and for my kids to be as close to my kids and grandchildren as possible, because there's so much I want. Like, there's so much I want to enrich them with, you know what I mean? And I'm like, right now I've got to just like get myself together and keep turning in Jean. So it's a hard spot for me, you know. But anyway, I'm being emotional. I'm trying to make a report. So it's ridiculous. So anyway, that's just my my personal feelings. But anyway, so I'm literally bawling, imagining, thinking about the Native Americans traveling by foot. And I had talked to them, and I said, this is when I was in Oklahoma City, and this is in a different conversation, and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I said, what do you guys do? I said, how do you shop? How are you like getting food and clothes and like, how are you getting this? And they kind of like, you know, it's Native Americans explained it. African Americans explained it. Then, because if there's African Americans trapped down there, so African Americans explained it. The guys that I talked to, that are in Oswego, the Aryan Nation that is trapped down there, like they talk to me about it. And then you've got the runners, they talk to me, like, so I was like, you know, because I'm asking my brain, like, how do you get supply? How are you getting medical treatment? Like, you're not getting anything you need. And so they told me, Native Americans told me that they made their own shoes. I'm like, you make your own shoes? And they said some people, there are some people that are barefoot, but yeah, they don't get shoes. They make their own shoes. And I'm like heartbroken. And I'm like imagining my mom's favorite shoes in the world are squaw boots. She always wore those when I was little. And so when I think of like Native American shoes, I think of those soft leather squaw boots with the oh my gosh, the silver thing on. I can't even talk anymore. The silver rings on, or the silver shells on them. So, and you tie the leather around them to lace them. And so all I can think of is like them making their own shoes just to be able to survive. I asked all kinds of questions, like, you know, how are you eat? Like, can you fish down there? Like, is there like, because I know the ocean water runs underneath Arizona, and I'm like, can you like reach water where like lake water or ocean water? Like, can you reach can you fish? Like, what can you know, I asked so many questions. I got to talk to people forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It was just amazing, precious conversations. But anyway, it made me cry, because I'm like, they're down there, and there's nothing anybody can do unless Jean is arrested. And then So I was talking to them in Casablanca, and I said, I said, do you have Charles Manson occult near you? Are they with you? Like, are they mixed with you? And um, they said yes. They have white people with them. they were literally referring. They're in Charles Manson. They literally are in Charles Manson. And they said yes, they have Charles Manson. They weren't joking, but they kind of got a kick out of me asking. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, what's going on? Like I'm like in my brain, I'm like, all right, what's going on? I'm putting a stop to this, and I mean it. I'm turning in Gene. So anyway, I asked him. I'm like, is there Charles Manson occult there with you? Are they there with you? And they said yes, they said there are some people there with them. And I said, are they nice to you? Are they good to you? Are they mean to you? Like I'm asking them all these questions. And they go, some of them are all right. Some of them aren't all right. That's what they said to me. And I was like, roar! I'm gonna turn in Gene. Like I'm ready to and I'm still like this. Like it's 2026 and now I've got a podcast and I'm turning in Gene, but that's a thing to consider. Like they let me know, like people know underground who is good and who is not good, who is evil and who is not evil. And they did. And a lot of the Abajos, back when I was in Oklahoma City, but moving forward, they did a lot of figuring out who's who, you know what I mean? So, because they know eventually, they know that this is terrorism. They know Gene Roberts committed these terror attacks. There were some people I talked to when I lived in Oklahoma City, and this when I lived in Michael's first apartment, they didn't know what the United States looked like. And I was showing them what the United States looked like through my eyes by putting United States map on the TV. And they didn't even know there was a World Trade Center attack. They didn't know what World Trade Center was. They didn't know what World Trade Center attack. They didn't even know what any of that was. They didn't know really where they were. They didn't know anything. And I had to show them, this is where we are. This is where New York is. This is where because they can hear me. I'm in my brain, talking mental telepathy, and I'm effing freaking out. Like I keep decoding in my brain because your brain is processing, right? And they can hear my brain. I mean, my brain out, so they can hear me, and I'm like, I'm like, shit, Rick, to the World Trade Center attack, and I'm like decoding it all in my brain, and I'm writing stuff down, and they watch me decode and write stuff so I'm like, they probably don't even know what the heck I'm even freaking talking about. And here they're connected to this lady and she's freaking out, which is me over the World Trade. What even is the World Trade Center? What is this? So I was I was literally this is New York. This is where the World Trade Center was. And I showed them a picture of the World Trade Center. And then I showed them a picture of the World Trade Center on fire, and then they were pulling people in my brain. They were talking to all their people, and they were like, look at this is the World Trade Center attack, this is what happened. And they were showing the picture that was on my screen on the TV. And then I was talking to them about the Oklahoma City bombing. They didn't even know, because I was and this was me talking to people that were Abajo in Oklahoma. They didn't even know that, and I was in Oklahoma City, they didn't even know that there was an explosion in Oklahoma City. They didn't even know this even happened. And so I'm showing them Alfred P. Murrah building, and I'm showing them the explosion, and I'm like, you couldn't feel underground, could you feel the explosion? They're like, no, they didn't know any of this was going on. And so I'm talking, it's just, I used to talk back and forth to everybody all the time. And then at that time I had on ballistics experts that I got to talk to, and the Army in Fort Sill, I think it was Fort Sill, that I was talking to. They have access to some of this technology at Fort Sill. So I was talking to them. And then I was talking to an underground base in Illinois. It was between Illinois and Indiana. I don't know. I think it was South Illinois, I think is where it was. So, but not all the way south, like middle Illinois. And then Gene freaked out because I was like, I could hear them in my brain. They were soldiers and they were told to watch me, right? So Jean's running this major freaking hostage racket and she's got me listed as a hostage. Literally, she's trying to call the FBI. She's got me listed as a hostage at the freaking FBI. Okay, with the price tag on my freaking head. And then later on, she went and told the FBI that I was deceased. And then she proceeded, and she still does that to this day. I hear her telling her people, Christina's dead, Christina's dead, Christina's dead. No, I'm not. She counted me as dead somehow within the system and then tried to steal my identity is what she did. Okay, so Jean Jernigan Roberts, my dad's freaking ex-girlfriend. And I'm like, I'm not effing dead. Well, she had told a bunch of politicians I was, because they're like, what happened to Christina? And then some of her people came on and like, this is Christina's brain. You're talking in Christina's brain. Christina's alive. Jean told people that Christina's dead. This is Christina's brain. Christina's alive. Like alive. Like she's living in Oklahoma City or what? I don't know where I was. Where was I living when they said that? I don't know. Maybe Tulsa, maybe I was here. But they're like, Christina's alive. Christina's not dead. Jean is telling people that Christina is dead. She's telling people literally in the FBI that Christina is dead. No, she's alive. We're talking through her brain right now. Not like I'm dead, like she's talking through my brain, which she does that too to deceased people. I'm saying I'm literally alive. Like, I saw my social security number. Like, I live in Tulsa. I live on 79. Like, I'm alive, okay? And it's like, I can't believe this. And I'm like, okay. And then intelligence was on there, like, basically signaling to me, you're going to have to fight harder to get the White House to respond to you. You've got her turned in, like ridiculously so, but you're going to have to get more vocal and force the White House to listen to you, because Jean is running a hostage racket and Jean is committing terrorism and she's running this little child trafficking freaking thing to fund it all and running around like she's, a cop or whatever. And she's not. She's a freaking criminal. She's a leader of the Charles Manson occult. So anyway, so when I was talking to them, I was like, are they good to you? Are they nice to you? And that's what they said. They're like, some of them are all right. They were literally like, they were like, some of them are all right. Some of them are not all right. And I'm like, are you guys okay? And they're like, we're okay. They thought it was like, because it was their first time getting to talk to me. And I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, I was like freaking out. Like, I just like want to hug everybody. Like, are you all right? What is that Manson Nicole doing? What are they doing to you? I'm like freaking out. So there are people in the occult, in the Manson occult, that have bonded with Native Americans, but there are also people in the Manson occult that are not good people, which would be Gene Roberts. And so that's why I tell people, that are in this mixed group of people, like, you're just going to have to be tough, because I'm not going to coddle you. I'm not going to cozy you like I just got done bawling. Okay. But I'm not going to coddle. I'm not going to I'm not, The Manson occult is a terrorist occult. That lady did the World Trade Center attack. And the minute I show any sort of level of sympathy or affection, Gene will steal it, hide it, pretend to be me, pretend to be you, run around white peeling, and commit chaos everywhere. And so I'm just going to stay mean. And I'm like, and I need to be mean. She's a terrorist. She needs to go to jail. And they were like, they appreciated it. And they went with it. It's been that way. And that's been that way with witches ever since. The same way, I'm very because no, I'm not giving you a hole to hide in, Gene Roberts. You use and abuse people. Today you were on AI and mental telepathy all day acting like a freaking little kid. You're nearly 80 years old. You're freaking disgusting. I'm not giving you anything to hide in at all. And if that means that our people are there waiting for the White House to do something, they've just going to have to wipe their tears, hold in their tears. I'm going to keep turning Jean in. Okay. And then the White House can figure out who's a terrorist, who's not a terrorist, what's going on here, and triage and da 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 da. Okay, so that's like my aspect of it is I need to get Jean Roberts turned in. So anyway, another thing with the scent that Jean did. So I don't know if you guys know this. So Jean, the Charles Manson occult goes by 2 aliases. So they call themselves, I was talking about all the aliases, that's where, okay, so they call themselves the family, okay, which they do this on purpose. Their whole thing is to be a chameleon and hide under anyone and everybody everywhere. So how many different groups of people do you know and love out there in this world that call themselves family or the family? A lot of different people. The mob does it, rappers do it. Like, so the minute I say Jean Roberts, the minute I know that the Charles Manson occult calls himself family, Jean Roberts in my brain instantly starts white peopling and telling lies. And she spreads these lies out into the world, into the environment. Okay. And she'll go and say stupid shit like I'm talking about like rappers or the mob or whatever. Like she flips everything around I say and tells lies about everything I say. So you need to know, like, if I'm talking about family, like my family, I have bracelets on my wrist for my family. Okay. Jean tried to lie about the bracelets on my wrist and tried to go and say that that was Charles Manson family. And I'm like, you are a stupid goddamn bitch. I cannot wait till you are executed. So it's easy to get like it confused, which is the way she wanted it. That's why they call themselves family. They just sneak and hide under there and tell a lie and blah, 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 blah. They are insane ridiculous. So anyway, another thing that they call themselves, another alias that they call themselves are Zodiac killers, which I know you know that. Everybody thought the Zodiac killers were separate than Charles Manson. The Zodiac killers are Charles Manson. And a lot of the crimes that I solve that Jean Roberts and her Manson occult committed, I always find Zodiac references. I always know to look for Zodiac references. Okay. So one of the things that she uses for the Zodiac references, and I decoded some of these letters, was the one guy, I can't remember what his name is. He was in Charles Manson. He wrote all those letters to the San Francisco Chronicle. Do you remember who I'm talking about? And he was a killer. I don't remember what his name was now. But that was one of Jean Roberts' people. He's in Charles Manson. So anything with newspaper or press or Associated Press or anything like that, any newspaper reference, because this was a very big deal. This killer was a very big deal. It was very big in the news. Anything that's newspapery is always Charles Manson. So that also goes to scent. On the scent, okay? You're on the scent of something. So that also goes to that. Also, gumshoe. That's another word for a reporter. And again, Jean Roberts and her Charles Manson occult, they're the shoe bombers. So gumshoe, there's another one. There's another thing. So you have to look for anything that's like reporter references or newspaper references. And then obviously, San Francisco. So I got a lot more to talk about. This is going to be huge. I got off on a whole thing, but I guess it all need to be said. So anyway, I'm going to pick up on the next recording and I'm going to start off talking about Scott Bessant. He paid me a visit in my brain. I recognized him the next day after seeing him on TV. And it was like hellfire on wheels for like the next 2 days after that, because Jean thought she was like open season, able to like do anything she freaking wanted. Because of Scott Bessant, like he granted her some like grand permission to just do whatever she wants to the United States. And she had a whole bunch of nasty, sick people on with her, and they were helping themselves, doing whatever the hell they wanted to the United States. It was insane. But anyway, Scott Bessant is the new OMB. So remember when I told you guys, I was giving the United States a hard time when I was first learning about the OMB, and I was learning about it in college, and I was like, this is fascinating. The Office of Managerial Budget, and they manage the finances for the United States of America. Like, they're the top of the money line. They're the top of the money chain. So he's the money guy. He is the money guy of the United States. So anyway, like, he's a decision maker. So, it was fascinating to learn about in school. And then later on, when I was decoding, I thought about the OMB, and then the letters rearranged in my brain to MOB. And I was like, United States, you're just so cheeky. I thought I got a kick out of that. I thought it was the cutest thing in the freaking world. Jean stole that from me, obviously, went around with it, and then posed herself as the MOB. And then I think somebody told him about it, because it's freaking cute as heck. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ruin your reputation, Mom. I'm really, really not. I just really want Jean arrested. They know Christina. They do get a kick out of it. I mean, there's so much history behind the MOB. You know, the MOB is a big part of, as you know, Christina, they're talking through right now, of building the United States of America. Also, you know, everybody, you know, there's so many people that built the United States of America, and the MOB is a huge part of that. So that's why I got such a huge freaking kick out of that they're called the OMB. But anyway, so Trump just put him in, and he paid a visit. And then I'm going to pick up on that in the next recording, and I'm going to end this one.